Dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 dum. Hey there, guys and gals. Welcome to a very special Wednesday night bites episode of Back of the Cereal Box. I am your host, the prophet of pop culture, John Pica. You can call me Johnny. And tonight, we have Chris Vaglio and Lucas Leverett in the studio to talk about Book of Boba Fett. We're going to do a whole series recap and review in the next hour or so. So stick around and join us in the comments, and we're going to do that right now.
It's like Coca-Cola, Levi Strauss, Johnny Carson and Mickey Mouse. The first star was James Dean. Elvis Presley, yeah, he's still the king. Some things are only imitatable. You can't beat an original. Oh, you can't beat an original.
That theme song is recorded by our friends, the Murdering Crows. You can pick up their record, Four Bad Crows, on Amazon, Google, or Apple Music, wherever you get music. And we want to thank right up front our sponsors, Dave Mattingly, Cindy Kep, Crystal Raven Jones. They support us on buymeacoffee.com/cerealboxpod. And if you like what we do, you can do it as well. If you don't like the show, donate even more generously, help us improve it. And also brought to you by Unidragon Puzzles. At unidragon.com, use our promo code CerealBoxPodcast. Take 10% off your first order. You will not regret it. All right, guys and gals, we've got some friends in the green room. Let's bring them up. First and foremost, the infamous raving liberal, Lucas Leverett. How you doing, Lucas?
Bum bubba dubba dum Boba Fett. That's how I'm doing. I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I am fantastic. And also joining us in the virtual rec room is our fellow Star Wars Freakosaurus, Mr. Chris Vaglio, host of the Chris and Amanda Show, which, by the way, Chris,
yes,
I've been listening to nonstop for like the last 2 weeks.
Well, thank you.
What a great show you guys have.
Oh, man, thanks.
And you've inspired me.
Yes, I have.
Yes. I was like, you know what? Chris and Amanda, they're doing some things right. I need to lift some of their techniques.
Well, that intro was impressive, man. I was like, wow, I hadn't seen the new intro with the theme song yet. So that is awesome. That is something really special. I dig it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. A friend of mine, Jamie Slocum, wrote the song. And, I had been singing it a cappella off and on, sometimes on Clubhouse. And our friends at the Murdering Crows, DL Memphis and Geek Gumshoe, they were like, hey, you mind if we do something with that? And so they recorded it. And
it's great.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
That's pretty cool, man.
I love it. Yeah. No, it's really cool.
I'm excited about that. And we've been loving it since we aired it. So for those of you who are just tuning in, and we have a few viewers, do us a quick favor. One, share this. If you're watching us on Facebook,
yes,
share this to everybody you know, because it's more fun the more people who play along. And the great thing about our show is this is interactive with you, the audience. You can post a comment in the chat, and we will respond to it throughout the show. We definitely want to get your feedback and read your comments, and that would be fantastic. And so let's get into it, guys.
Yeah.
Before we really talk about this guy,
look at that. Just thought, zero hesitation. Look at that. Just right into action. Everybody's ducking and covering. Amazing.
Lucas, tell the audience a little bit more about who you are and why I invited you to be on this show.
Well, let's see. I've probably been in the fandom scene for 20 years or so, maybe a little over. And as a co-founder, co-creator, creator, founder of multiple fan events when I was in Nashville, as well as keeping up, a few pieces of connectivity to some projects on the side. Produced the Nashville Zombie Walk, which has been on hiatus. We're now able to evaluate, will that come back? But now that I'm here in Grand Rapids, Michigan,
Maybe it's time
I'm-
for a Michigan zombie walk.
That's exact. Well, a Grand Rapids Zombie Walk. We're entertaining that idea, but I'm connecting with some of the geek culture here. I was involved with the Makerspace and the Maker Fair in Nashville, and they're actually starting a new Makerspace here. So I've extended some assistance to them, and we're going to talk about how to launch into that. So I stay active in the geek side of the world, and then I have the Brewing Controversy weekly live stream where my friend David and I do a little banter about all things sociopolitical as a couple of cranky leftists with craft beer in hand. So if you're into that, we invite people to come in, participate, drink along, chat along, and we usually do a beer review from a new brewery. We try a new brewery every week if we can. And it's a really fun concept, basically what we were already doing when we hung out anyway.
Those are always the best shows. And Lucas, we don't do politics on Back of the Cereal Box, but you would be proud to know that I was accused of being a leftist today and booted from a group that leans to the right.
That's a far-fetched notion.
Chris, tell everyone about your love affair with Star Wars.
Oh boy, that's definitely an obsession that started in 1977 when the first one came out. I was really young, but completely remember going, and it just was a thing that inspired me to get involved into filmmaking and into video production, all that, because I wanted to make that magic. That was the one thing I just always stuck with me. It definitely, seeing it even at that very young age, just woke that creative fire inside of me, and since then I've been creating and wanting to be involved in creative. And like I said, I spent a 20-year career as a professional in production work, producing, editing, all that before I transitioned out. And now what I do is I actually I mentor and I do business advisory services with other creative professionals to help them out in their journey and help them build their businesses. But yeah, man, I love Star Wars. I love talking Star Wars. I've been a nerd for Star Wars my whole life, and I'm really psyched to be here. And yes, and thanks again for mentioning the show. I'm also the co-host of the Chris and Amanda Show, which airs on Mondays at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you could watch the live stream on all the places: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. And then you could download or listen to the audio version anywhere you get podcasts. So you can watch us and then you can listen to us. So you can relive the magic all over again.
Yeah, and it's fantastic, guys.
Thank you.
And look, if you want to be entertained and amused and just to have a smile on your face, the Chris and Amanda Show. If you want to be outraged and pound your fist on the table, check out Lucas's Brewing Controversy Show. Because no matter which way you lean, you're going to end up pounding your fist on the table. But
I tend to bring people a little bit of something for everybody anyway, because I'm not left enough for everybody under 30 apparently. So there we are. Hey, you were enjoying the side view of my big old jowls because I didn't want to believe you, Johnny. But when we get to that HasLab conversation, I pulled it up to arm myself for the discussion of vast disappointment. So now I'm fully prepared.
Well, and Chris, you and I have a very similar background. I was 7 years old in 1977. I was in the theater opening night, and I didn't know what I was going to see. I was just going with some friends. And when Darth Vader stepped through that door on that Rebel frigate, I pointed at the screen and I said, I want to do that. And that has informed my career as an entertainer and storyteller ever since.
Yeah,
And
definitely magic, man. I mean, that's how I've always seen Star Wars. It's always been magic for me.
George Lucas is one of my favorite magicians.
Yes.
George Lucas and Jim Henson.
Yeah.
So we got a couple of comments.
Okay.
John Wood says, I appear to be an audience of one. Not true, John, because Melissa Stetcher is watching. She says, love you, friends, but not sticking around because I haven't watched yet. She is not caught up.
Spoilers
and our
abound.
friend Drew Milden says, nerds! Drew,
With love.
Drew, if you want to come on the show with us, I'll send you the link. You would be great.
Oh, Drew would be awesome.
You're probably tending to baby, but
yeah.
If not, send me a message, and if you want to come up, I'll bring you up. But I got to tell everyone this right off the bat, for everyone watching, there are going to be heavy spoilers. We're not holding anything back. So if you have not watched all of Book of Boba Fett, stop watching right now. Go binge it, because it's only 7 episodes, and the longest episode is 56 minutes, and then come back 3 hours from now and watch the rest of our analysis.
Yes.
So let's talk Umbrella here.
Mm-hmm.
Just initial reactions, your initial feelings about the series in general, and then we'll break down some individual elements. Chris, go first.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'll give my quick Umbrella thought was, I ultimately liked the show. It was structured a little weird. I don't think I'm alone in that. It was not a structure I was anticipating at all, which also kind of made it really cool at the same time, because it was just weird. Like, I've never kind of seen a show like that had that and then went away and came back. But ultimately, at the end of the day, and we're going to get deep into it, but I overall, I liked the show. I think season 2 of Mandalorian a lot better, even season 1. But I feel like I'm comparing apples and oranges a little bit here, and I don't want to get into that, because ultimately, as a Boba Fett nerd that I am, I got a Boba Fett sleeve, as you can see. This is something I waited for my entire life as a fan. So I'm happy to have finally received it. And, I'm anxious to see where it goes, but we'll get deeper into it as it goes on and break it down. But overall, my umbrella is that I liked it. It's a little weird, but I liked it.
Lucas?
I would agree with some of that. You guys were talking about some of the origins of your Star Wars fandom. I happened to come of age in a time period where I had all 3 movies freshly available. I was born in 78, so I was old enough to consume it as relatively new, complete at the time media. And this character always had that presence. There was that figure that your friends had that you wanted. There was that mystique of the character being talked about and theorized about. And then, of course, I did my share of RPG gaming with some friends that were very into what is now the Legends material, the expanded universe stuff. And I received many a lecture and education over dice about things that had happened since. And it was really interesting to compare the stuff that I knew that those guys would be looking for to be picked out of that set of story elements to potentially be inserted here. So I was kind of over the moon to see how they treated, the Sarlacc escape and all. And then the structure, I would say, I would join in the people that kind of raise an eyebrow as to, why didn't we just do 2 episodes straight on catching us up, just one solid flashback. I think the flashback format works in a lot of cases. I think it felt weird to the fans here, but I'm absolutely committed to the notion that at least in these shows, Star Wars is in the hands of people that absolutely love it with a passion, and they're building and crafting things out of just sheer joy. And a lot of times when we watch it, we're getting that sheer joy. And there was plenty of that in this series.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so my initial thoughts, let me frame this by saying that I was never a Boba Fett fan. I never understood the fan fervor for this character. And look, I was introduced to this character before Empire Strikes Back in the now infamous holiday special. Which I loved this animated short from the holiday special. And I loved the look and style of Boba Fett. And I got the early bird special figure. I sent away for it, however many proofs of purchases, and got it in the little white box. I still have it. I wish I had that box to prove that it was the early bird special.
Me too.
But I got it. Maybe the stamp on the foot or on the leg could prove it. I don't know, but I'll have to look at that. But I always liked the look of the character, but I never understood why fans were so over the moon after I finally saw him. Because to me, all he did in Empire Strikes Back was stand around a lot, said 3 lines, got treated like a punk by Darth Vader. I was going to use another word, but that would not be appropriate. And then in Return of the Jedi, he gets taken out by a blind man with a stick. I'm like, what? Why is everyone over the moon about this character? So I came into this series not really. And look, when they announced the Mandalorian series in general, I was not excited. I was like, really? Really? Do we need this? Do we need more Mandalorian stuff after the Clone Wars and after Rebels? And really, but I fell in love with the Mandalorian, Din Djarin. The finale of season 2 was awesome. The introduction of Ahsoka Tano, who is my favorite Star Wars character.
That's my second. Yeah. My number 2.
Yeah. Sent me over the moon. And, I came into this series, again, not a fan, but willing to give this a chance. And this series has turned me into a Boba Fett fan.
There you go.
All
and
right.
The things that you guys either didn't like or a lot of fans didn't like or complained about or found odd are what made me love the show. And I always remind fans who complain, for everything you hate, somebody else loves.
It's true.
And a lot of the things that some old, my age fans and hardcore Boba Fett fans hated, I actually loved. I love deconstructed storytelling, and I love character deconstruction. Look, I loved The Last Jedi for the way that they took the character of Luke and completely deconstructed him and what he means and who he is, and then brought him back through his own individual hero's journey or revelatory journey. And that's what they were doing with Boba Fett on this. He's this guy that we meet who he's failed miserably. He's broken figuratively and literally. And he's alone, left for dead in the desert. And not only does he have to rebuild his life, but he's going to go on his own hero's journey. And I loved the flashbacks. I just... everything going on with the Tusken Raiders, I loved it. I loved it.
Oh, same here. I was marked out big time for the Dances with Tuskens episode.
Yeah,
that was beautiful. I actually I enjoyed that episode with a lot of glee and pure joy in the same way that I enjoyed the Jawa episode in Mandalorian. I just think that some of these little cultural deep dives that have come out of these series have become love letters to Star Wars in and of themselves.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying there, because I agree 100%. Those are the things that I have been picking up on in all the series. And what I really love, because to me, and I'm gonna just say it, this is the stuff that, like, when we were kids and we played with our action figures, honestly, and this is, and I've heard everybody say this too about the finale season, the
Yeah.
finale episode is like, basically we dumped out all our action figures and played with them, and that's kind of what the finale was. But honestly, those are those little things that we would make up playing with the toys, and there it is. And I love
Yeah.
it. And I love the exploration of, the imagination of the world that George Lucas created, and how other people are now playing in at Sandbox and bringing it to life and giving it more than just like, than just cannon fodder. Like, they're actually like, there's a culture, there's a civilization, and we're going to learn about it. And I like that stuff.
Yeah,
like it.
I love anything that takes a deep dive into the culture. And Tony Snipes, it is true. I was never a Boba Fett fan. And I got to take issue with this comment from John Wood. Come on, Pika. The Last Jedi is one of the worst movies ever made. I completely disagree.
Phantom Menace is, or actually Attack of the Clones may be one of them.
So, well, no, okay. I got to say this, Chris. Any Star Wars movie is a great movie.
Well, but when you stack them up against each other, that's where the
Attack of the Clones is probably my least favorite.
It's got some of the worst dialogue in all of Star Wars.
Well, I've got a whole theory about that, and we could get into that on another
right,
show.
I know that's a separate show.
But
Johnny,
Phantom Menace is
maybe
my third favorite movie in the Star Wars saga. Yeah. Empire, Rogue One, Phantom Menace. I love Phantom Menace.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Johnny, I have to
for
see
reasons
your
we can talk about.
I have to see your inexplicable people obsessed with Boba Fett astonishment, and point out that I had a girlfriend in high school, and someone I've known for many, many years since, who always swore that Boba Fett was the sexiest character. She had the biggest crush. And this is in the 90s, when all we knew was what you described, the guy that got whacked by a blind man. Like, there was this, and she was not the only one. There was this fangirl clutch that just decided Boba Fett was the bee's knees, and they've been continually gratified. And I know that fangirl group now must be just thrilled to have finally gotten the full show. But I imagine they probably weren't picturing a dad bod Samoan guy underneath all that. But
So Drew asks, is Jar Jar better or equal to Boba Fett? So until this series, I was more of a Jar Jar fan than I was a Boba Fett fan.
Really?
Because I understood the purpose of Jar Jar Binks. I was not one of those fans who expected the sequel to grow up as I grew up.
Yeah, right.
Anyway. And he's right. Attack of the Clones has some of the best political conversations of all time. There's a lot of conversations.
Right.
In Attack of the Clones.
It's also the world's worst love story ever told. But once again, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to.
We'll talk about that at a later time. So
there's a lot of revealing in that, I think, of where George Lucas was going with the political and social influences of the time when he conceived of those stories. And I think that's an important piece of it.
Possibly.
Anyway.
So we meet Boba Fett for the first time in the holiday special. He also showed up in Droids, the animated series. And this is the Hot Toys version of that costume, which I love. And Chris, they even did a Droids Slave One. I don't remember ever seeing this.
Neither do I. This is new. And you know what? I have all the books, but I as far as the collector's books go, but I never saw this. This is cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the hunt for this, because now I am obsessed with Boba Fett because of the show. But in live action, if we go chronologically,
right,
we first meet Boba, the clone child of Jango Fett from Attack of the Clones. And then also in that, there he is.
Yep.
And this is Tamora Morrison, who is, also Boba, because Boba's a clone.
Yep.
And, look at this. Really, when you look at Daniel Logan at that age compared to Tamora Morrison then and even now, I've got a picture of him without his helmet.
Okay.
I mean, that kid looks like.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, it was good casting.
Oh, what happened to that picture? I can't find it. Oh, well. Anyway, And then we got the animated version again in Star Wars Rebels.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And did they ever, Chris, explain the difference in the color palettes?
Not that I know of. I mean, as far as I know, there's never been anything that, at least that I'm aware of, as to an explanation why in the color palettes. I think it's just an artistic choice a little bit. I mean, and there have been variations. I mean, originally when the character was created, when it wasn't even painted, it was all white. If you watch that great little series on Disney Plus, the
Yeah.
dented helmet and all the behind the helmet or what I forgot, but it's really well done. I really liked
behind
it.
the helmet. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
Great. I think that should be required viewing for anybody that's going to claim to be into
Mhm.
this show. It's a fantastic little
Yeah.
mini, very short documentary. Gives a lot of amazing background, and it kind of explains a little bit of the allure. They kind of they did viral before it was even remotely a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I have not watched
That
that
parade.
yet. Maybe I'll have to do it.
That might
I'm
help
guilty.
you. The
But this
parade
is-
is a light bulb moment.
Oh my God, that parade footage is priceless. Watching that, I'm like, oh man, I wish I was there.
But for most of us, this was the guy we remember. And this is actually just before
Yep.
he gets whacked in the jetpack by a blind Han Solo. And I just find his evolution to be very interesting because after Return of the Jedi, we don't see him again until this moment. And you'll remember, we didn't even know that this was Boba Fett at the time. We thought it was because this was the episode where Cobb Vanth had given up the armor that he had acquired from the Jawas. And then after Boba Fett gets it back, a new paint job, black base, kind of a half kilt. I love this look.
Yeah, I thought it was a great evolution. And I love how in the show, which we'll get into, but I love how the whole, he's basically in the jumpsuit that he's in the Sarlacc pit in, and he's in it for a long time in those flashbacks. And I kept thinking, like, oh my gosh, how much longer is that jumpsuit gonna make it through all the beatings and the sand and all that? So I like that the evolution of that and the stripping away of that, and then eventually getting his Tusken robes. And I like that he's incorporated the two cultures of the Mandalorian culture and the Tusken Raider culture into one. And I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, I love that whole... Go ahead, Lucas.
I think that's a kind of a subline of some of these stories, especially this set of Mandalorian stories that are being presented. There's a breaking down of the strict cultural silos that people have been stuck in their ability to understand and tell Star Wars stories. It had to be Jedi, it had to be Mandalorian, and then now we're finding these characters that are finding their own way, and it's much more natural, because if you think about it, it's a little ludicrous to think that Force sensitives would always just go Jedi. And now we've seen multiple instances where Force sensitives don't go full Jedi. And it's a nod to that Legends material, because there were plenty of Force sensitive characters, and that was really exciting to people. And I think people were terrified that all that stuff would just be ignored and destroyed and thrown out. And I think this is a great way to incorporate. It's basically Disney saying, okay, we can't deal with all of that baggage, but watch, we'll pick a few of the best things and bring them back into the line. So I think that, we're looking at a lot of that hybrid culture stuff, and it's much more the way real life works. You get somebody that comes out of native culture here in America and goes into the corporate world. You might see them in a suit, but still have some kind of beaded hair or jewelry, just like he's done with his multiple culture adaptations. I think it's much more natural to how real beings live.
Yeah, I think what they're exploring here is a redefinition of what Mandalorians are, because we have these disparate kind of factions. Boba Fett was always by himself, never had a family. It was he and Jango. And then after Jango is killed by Mace Windu, he ends up hanging out with other bounty hunters. And that's not a family, because every one of those guys was, out for their own hide.
They're bounty hunters.
Yeah,
They're
it was every
mercenaries.
man for himself.
Right.
And so he never had a family. And finally, he finds a place of community, a place of belonging in the Tuscans. And that's a powerful, powerful thing that I think a lot of fans are overlooking.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, you've got Din Djarin, who has been part of a religious cult sect of the Mandalorian culture. And that's all he's known and what he thinks being a Mandalorian is. And then over here, we've got Bo-Katan and the House of Kreese, and what is going to happen. And then so when all these three different philosophies finally collide, I think at the end of the day, we get a new definition of the Mandalorian culture.
Yeah. And there's a clear definition of potentially a triad faction thing. It's not crazy to consider that after this display of honor in battle in the finale, that you've got the beginnings of I guess a 3-man, if you count Grogu, a 3-man guild or tribe.
Yeah, which is also interesting, because when you consider, Din Djarin was not on Mandalore. He was saved by Death Watch and brought into the fold. And Grogu, who now they're considering, a Mandalorian, part of the culture, and not even close to being a humanoid. Like it's really, it's great because of that. And so we're seeing that now. We see it play out in Mandalorian. We now saw it play out in Book of Boba Fett. And I like the points that we're all making here is like, yeah, this is where they're kind of pushing it, that like, you have choices and you could choose to be with what family or sect or whatever you want. And, you don't have a pre-written destiny, as, we've always heard, like in Star Wars, like it's your destiny. You don't have a choice. And well, no, you do have a choice, and you may think it's a predetermined thing, but it's not. Like Grogu was, oh, you got to be a Jedi. And now we find out, at least right now, he's like, no, I don't really want to do that. I want to do this. I want to hang out with Mando and be a Mandalorian. And Boba Fett's, I don't want to be a bounty hunter anymore. I want to have people. I want to have community. I want to, live a life of purpose other than just like being paid to hunt people down and kill them. Like,
Yeah.
And, I've had a theory that the Mandalorian guild, that Din Djarin, the foundlings, the reason why it's against their creed to remove their helmet is because they want to preserve the mystique of the Mandalorians. And if people found out that they were from different races and different planets, that would kind of shatter that whole idea. So that's been my theory.
Not a bad
well,
theory.
taking away individuality is a hallmark of cultish brainwashing
cults,
patterns. So
Right.
that makes perfect sense. And I'm thinking that we saw just enough with the choice that Grogu was given and probably made, but there's a little bit of mystery shrouding how that conversation actually went down. But we didn't get a direct challenge to the existing canon that Leia was the first student of the Academy. I think that was kind of a giveaway of what the choice would become. I think it was all woven in very well. I'm curious if there's going to be more Book of Boba Fett, or if it was a detour limited series style from an overall Mandalorian tale that we're getting told.
Yeah.
I think
like a Mando
it's
2.5.
Yeah, I think it's all going to be just a chapter in the Mandalorian saga. Normally, by this point, Disney would have announced a season 2 already.
Yeah.
And they haven't. I don't think there's an intention to do a season 2. I think it's just going to continue in The
Yeah, he'll
Right,
he'll
and
show up in 2 episodes and be mostly featured.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
But
reverse.
yeah, I mean, and I like how they're tying they're all these series are going to intersect with each other. I mean, I'm not sure about how Kenobi may or may not, considering where it is in the timeline. So I don't know. I think that may be more of a standalone, but we'll
Mhm.
see. But with the Ahsoka show coming out, that's definitely bound to intersect because they seem to be going in the same timeline, and this is where we're going to get, obviously get Thrawn and probably a continuation of Rebel. Well, basically, it will be a continuation of Rebels, at least from the Thrawn side of things. And I guess too, Andor will be predate a lot of this, but you may see a Boba Fett show up in Andor.
Well,
He can intersect. I mean, it's the prime time when he's being in his bounty hunting days, and we know Cassian Andor is he's doing what he has to do.
he's got some blood on his hands. He's a little
Yeah.
bit dirty. And yeah, Kenobi and Andor may intersect, and Boba Fett could appear in either one of them.
Yeah. Yes.
So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Now,
Especially if they go in with the whole, because we know Boba Fett and Vader were working together, and he sent them to Tatooine to go look for Luke. If you're going off comics and all that, so there's definitely. I mean, listen, Boba Fett worked for the Empire. Like, it was it. He didn't care. Whoever was paying his bill, and the Empire paid pretty well.
Well, am I sketching in partial ignorance to wonder if they might weave in Andor's dark operations and history into the answer of where the hell Grogu went when he was removed from? I mean, we still don't know the answer. What if
No.
that was part of one of his storylines? What if he's involved in that smuggling operation in
Ooh.
some way? I mean,
I
there are
like
plenty of
that.
That's
ways
a
that
great
they could
question.
weave things in.
I like that. I never thought of that, but that would be really cool.
Yeah. I'd be down with it.
Well, throughout this series, we got introduced to a lot of new characters in the Star Wars universe. Actually, reprising the character of Fennec Shand is the incredible
Oh, she's so good.
Ming-Na Wen. And yeah, I thought she was 52, but someone told me she's 56 years old. Does
Get
anyone
out of
know
here.
how old she is?
I do not. I'd have to.
I know
look up
she's
on-
in her 50s, but
Let me go to the IMDb.
She's 58.
58. Holy cow.
She is
How is that
58
possible?
and just killing it. I mean, I love the fact that every role she plays, just about, she's a badass and she looks like
Yeah.
she wants to tear you into little shreds just by glancing at you. But she has such a variety of personality in her roles. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of 50-something women just really reminding everybody that it's just a number.
Yeah,
Yep.
Charlize Theron and Halle Berry, and yeah, that the whole cast of Gunpowder Milkshake.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a question for you guys. All throughout this series, I felt uneasy about Fennec Shand's motivations. I felt like at any moment she might flip and turn on Boba Fett. There was just this feeling I had, and it didn't happen. Spoiler alert: she remained loyal to him,
Right.
and maybe she was looking for a family too. But did anyone else feel like that there was that underlying tension that didn't come out in the script necessarily, but just in her eyes and in the way she looked at things and reacted?
I'm not so sure I was waiting for her. I mean, at least this is my sense. I wasn't so sure that she wasn't. Let me just say it again. I was sure she wasn't going to turn on Boba Fett. I felt like they established enough of the backstory there, and especially when they showed him saving her when he could have killed her and all this and just left her for dead. So she owes him definitely a life debt, much like how Han and Chewie have that together. The life debt. The one thing I did think might happen was she would go rogue and do something and kind of go against what he wanted to do just because she thought it was right, which wouldn't necessarily be her turning against him, just doing what she thought that she had to do to protect the fold. So I kept waiting for that other shoe to drop. Be like, no, you know what? I'm gonna go do this because I know it's right. And of course, it probably would have been a bad decision. But except that I love. There was so much going on in that last episode, though, that I actually forgot that she disappeared. And when that whole assassin scene at the end, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Like, I completely forgotten about her when she disappeared in that episode after she saved the mods. And I was like, oh, the glorious fashion of her just being a badass assassin. But just, I didn't get the feeling that she was going to double cross him. It was more or less, I just thought she was going to maybe take matters in her own hands at some point.
Okay. Lucas, what did you think?
I took her demeanor to be unsure who she had hooked the wagon with, like, oh boy, does this guy have any idea what the hell he's doing? That was the vibe I picked up. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to stick around if he can't figure this out. And I also think she came equipped with more worldly knowledge and understanding of how these underworld systems worked, and she was trying to figure out how to teach him that in a discovery. I thought it was interesting to see her not be a look like just a exposition based superior knowledge. Like, look, I know these things. I've been through these things. You should listen to me. Instead, she was very background, saying maybe this, maybe that. Do you really think this? Really bringing him into knowledge of his own discovery. And I think that's the cynical vibe that I was picking up from her.
Yeah, I definitely felt like she was along for the ride, but she was kind of doubting that this whole rule with respect and building community was going to work. And I definitely feel like by that final scene of the finale that she had bought into that whole vibe, because that's what they have. They have a clan at the end.
I think she also taught him that you can't rule on diplomacy and management alone. I think she taught him that hard power has to also accompany soft. And that was the lesson I think he ended up coming away with.
Yep. I was just gonna make a point about that. And I also think he learned the lesson of which I think he was used to, right? Of just being like his reputation preceded him. Therefore, people were already fearful of him. Which also I feel like was also the audience as well. Like Boba Fett's so cool, the guy in the suit, like it's
we had this
and
it was canon,
right?
Not based in any reality.
Right, exactly. And it was kind of like now he's making that transition, and I think she was teaching him that, like, hey, you're more than just the dude in the suit, mysterious. Like, you've got to do more than just kind of be like, well, I'm Boba Fett. And it's like, it's kind of like, yeah, who cares? Like, like people forgot about you. You're in a Starlight pit. Like, no one, like the name wasn't carrying as much weight as it used to when, like, maybe, running around the Empire days, and it'd be like, I'm Boba Fett. It's like, oh crap, I'm, if Boba Fett's.
Well, I think she brought in the Hamilton lesson: winning is easy, governing's harder. She was there to kind of provide that reminder.
Good point.
Johnny's mute.
Johnny is on mute.
By most accounts,
himself has muted.
By most accounts, he was in the Tuscans tribe for about 5 years. So
yeah,
not only had he been presumed dead at the sail barge explosion, the unfortunate incident, but he's been doing something different for the last 5 years, and people had forgotten about him.
I think they did too. I mean, I just probably considered just another casualty of the Empire, the war. Like, he's a bounty hunter. Like, bounty hunters don't live that long, especially in a galaxy that's ruled by the Empire at the time.
So, speaking of Andor's shady past, maybe Grogu is a very tiny spice mule. And Ming is still the cavalry, even in space. And next time, don't push my buttons.
The Spice Mule comment was cracking me up earlier. I was having I first read it and about busted out.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got that one up on the
Space
Mule. I like this comment too. Speak softly and ride a Rancor.
Yeah.
Rancor whisperer.
Danny Trejo.
Which also now makes you feel even more sympathetic for the trainer, the keeper
Oh yeah.
in Return of the Jedi when Luke kills a Rancor.
Yeah.
Now you understand the emotional attachment, and I'm like, oh, but I like how they go that far. Like, once again, what we're talking about, the cultures and diving into like little bits about the characters, like learning about the Rancor and a connection. So it makes that scene in Jedi now a little more sympathetic.
I agree. And Tony says that he agrees with you, Lucas, that Fennec Shand was Boba Fett's guide as he was finding his way. And speaking of headcanon, what put the dent in Boba's helmet? A Rancor couldn't bite a dent in Mando's. Was he attacked by a head cannon? So there's a lot of debate about that.
Well, there is quote unquote canon that was never really,
It was never released,
but they do kind of acknowledge it in the show.
through
in
some of the attitudes and dialogue. If we are to believe the Clone Wars account, it was a duel between Boba Fett and Cad Bane, and Cad Bane used a weapon strong enough to dent Beskar.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be one hell of a weapon.
Has to be.
That's the Star Wars
Beskar
Galactic
bullets.
Dirty Harry hand cannon.
Yeah. Which is in why also Cad Bane has a metal plate under his head, and you see it when his hat is away, and that's kind of a little nod to like, because they both basically shot each other in the head.
Yeah. Dave Mattingly says maybe Danny Trejo was the Rancor's mother. he might pass as it. Anyway,
I love that cameo. I love all the little cameos that we're getting. Even some of these background characters that are fantastic actors, fantastic character and bit actors.
Yeah,
it was just such a good lineup of interesting folks.
Speaking of women in their 50s.
Right.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was blown away by this cameo. I was so happy.
Blown
I was like,
away.
this is fantastic.
I see what you did there.
Yeah,
this was
she
awesome.
is the one character I was really heartbroken to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to see more of Master Garza.
Yeah. I have a feeling we probably will in if we do earlier things before this timeline and stuff like that. I don't know. I think we might, because it seems like she's been around. She was around when Jabba was ruling.
Yeah. And of course we didn't see a body. So
right. Yeah.
There was no
what's the time frame for the Obi-Wan? Where's Obi-Wan take place in the timeline?
I think it's 8 years or 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, because Luke, I think, is like 8 or 10. I can't remember. He's a boy.
Okay, so it's in between 3 and 4.
Yeah,
correct.
The only place it could be, Lucas.
So it can overlap a lot. It could overlap the Andor.
Well, it's a 20-year period, basically.
Could be, yeah. Especially if Andor knows, because the rebellion is in swing. They're in touch with him.
I could see her. Who knows? I don't know what the life. I mean, somebody was going to correct me, I'm sure, that knows the lifespan of Twi'leks. But she could be a character in that. She could be a recurring character in that time period, coming up through her industry and gaining the steam to own her own joint.
Yeah.
So you guys were talking about these cameos in these characters, and one of the things I've loved about Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau is that they know how to cherry pick the expanded universe and how to properly bring characters from other media in, and we got this guy, Chrysanthemum.
So cool. I'm so happy they did that.
And he was, listen, this guy was so bad to the bone that he could take blaster shots, multiple. I mean, he must have been shot 20 times with a blaster and still didn't go down.
That's a total Robert Rodriguez thing too.
Yeah. And he first appeared actually in Dr. Aphra, but this is one of the more recent issues of the Star Wars comic series by Marvel, which is canon. And this is one of the scenes from that issue where they actually have met and worked together. And that's why you got that familiarity here in this scene. They knew each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's another cool thing to explore about the world of the underworld version of Star Wars and the bounty hunters. That these guys have partnered up on things and done jobs together and or cross paths on the same job. I mean, we saw it. We've seen it in Mandalorian, right? Everybody's got the same tracker. Who's gonna get it first. So they're either working with each other or against each other.
Chrysanthemum has been building up an immunity to blasters by injecting himself with liquid Beskar. It could happen.
Who knows?
And hey, Dave.
I like
Dave
the story
says,
about this actor as well.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to that, I gotta pop this up for Dave. Dave says, "Flashdance Beals," and just for you, Dave. Oh, what a feeling!
There you go.
Beings believed in. There you go, Dave. Are you happy? You should be happy. All right.
So I think we're seeing the emergence of a great new creature actor or main face alien actor along the lines of Doug Jones' path. Carrie Jones, the actor in the suit, this is his first major recurring role. He had 2 spots in Creepshow, and before that, it's all like puppeteer and demon and werewolf and suit performer. Most of his credits are makeup and special effects, and it's so rad to see someone moved up into that kind of slot from the craft, but B, someone so good. Because he's just good.
He emoted so well through this makeup. There was so much emotion in Chrysanthemum.
His eyes. I mean, look at that. He just had that great stare. And really, I agree. I mean, to be that in all that makeup and that outfit and still carry through a performance that reads is phenomenal.
I think he knows how to work it because he knows the craft.
Right.
Yeah, and the scene with him in Sanctuary, where he's watching the Trandoshans, and he's just getting angrier and angrier and angrier, and you are just seeing all of that happen. It was brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah,
that was really good.
Okay, my new favorite alien actor is David. How do you pronounce his last name? The Major Domo.
Pasquisi?
I think it's it. Yeah, I think it is Pasquisi. Yeah,
I think so.
Listen, I loved his character.
Sorry if he's listening.
I loved his character. I couldn't find any pictures of him online today.
Really?
Which
not even a one where he's reading from the tablet?
No.
Wow.
And a lot of fans, a lot of commentators had issue with him because he was so glib and so contemporary, and I knew that they were going to explain it. I was like, listen, not all Twi'leks are speak with an accent or have this chiseled filed teeth like Bib Fortuna. Some of them have been educated, and we found out he was educated on Coruscant.
Yeah, not that it makes me better than you.
And I loved everything about him.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
he was fantastic. No, he was phenomenal. And that entire scene, what a scene stealer of that entire scene, but totally orchestrated on purpose. I love that they really let him shine during that and let him show off his acting chops, because that was phenomenal. And I love the reoccurring joke of, do you have an appointment? That was in those first 2 episodes. It was great.
It's a minor point, mind you, but and does it strike anyone else odd? Let's just back up here for a moment.
Okay.
That in the Star Wars universe, Twi'lek women are like the supermodels. They are I don't know. There's something like really super attractive to me about Twi'leks.
Well,
Is that
that
just
one
me?
dude that was walking around the club was, Mr. Hot Stuff too. I
Yeah.
think we're seeing the work areas where they have to be good looking. We've
Mm.
seen them as the slaves and the window dressing to tyrants, and we've seen them in this environment of this club. She sends the male female team after people as greeters, and they're both hot, right? Like
Yeah.
I think you're seeing it in a context of the professional realm that
Right.
they're in. I
And we've
think that
seen them
there's
as
probably
yeah.
a full breadth of all of it across the board.
Mm.
Just like we're also discovering that they apparently come in many different skin tones. And
Yeah.
the deep dive episode on their culture needs to be done, because I think it'd be interesting to see exactly how many
Yeah.
Well,
different
they've explored that quite a
versions.
bit
In
in
Bad
Clone
Batch.
Wars and the Rebels
In
series.
Bad
Okay.
Batch, we got that episode on Ryloth at the beginning where we met Hera, a young Hera at that time, and she still had the accent because she was still there. Like that was a
Oh, yeah.
great little arc, because that was like, I don't know, two episode arc where they were on Ryloth, and we got to do a little bit more deep dive there. And of course, in Rebels, where she had to go back and she wanted to get the their cultural piece of art and all that. And so yeah, I love it. And we've seen them rise to the ranks of being like Jabba's slave to like leading armies and being in command of like rebel fleets, like and obviously running like casinos, underground casinos.
The
Yeah.
Major Domo was Ed Rooney to Boba Fett's Ferris Bueller. That's funny. And the helmet shiner Twi'lek dude was quite a bohunk. Would you like me to shine your helmet? Wink, wink. Yeah, I think there was some double entendre there for
Yeah.
sure.
Some really clever lines. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, that's going to bring us to another fan favorite character, Cobb Vanth, played by
Yep.
Timothy Oliphant.
Hmm.
And he was a character, we talked about Filoni and Favreau bringing characters from the other media. He was originally introduced in the novel
Yep.
Aftermath.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he appeared again as the Marshal of Mos
Espa. Oh,
No,
not Mos Espa. Sorry.
Mo-
now
Mo-
Freedom Town.
Freedom Town.
Yeah, Freetown.
Freetown. Thank you. Thank you.
And what a
Just stick
what
with
a,
Freetown. It's easier.
what a
Yeah.
great actor he was. And I want to talk about him in context of this scene.
Oh,
He's standing here and basically he is the Clint Eastwood character in this story.
Mhm.
And we've got, Angel Eyes,
Mhm.
Van Cleve from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly walking up.
Yep.
And, I love the line that Cobb says a couple of times, think it through.
Yeah.
I love that line.
Yep. Me too.
But here in this scene, and this is, I think, episode 4, or is it episode? No, it's episode 6. Episode 6.
It's episode 6 because that's where, because we pick up.
Yeah. This is straight out of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And this is what I loved about this series, and what I loved about The Mandalorian as well. But you basically have this mashup of westerns and samurai and
So good.
World War
And
II
mob.
fighter pilots in
Yep.
space. I'm like,
Yeah.
give
Yeah.
me more.
Yeah,
Yes.
really.
Mashing
Well,
up
and
3 of my favorite things.
That scene that you're talking about, and really all of his scenes, you have a guy, Oliphant, with bona fide Western resume chops. His body of work is so proven in the
Yeah.
Western genre. And the bartender, same deal. He was in some Western stuff. And so you had a lot of good source there. And then you had that visual, like just like what you described, a very, very Eastwood film kind of treatment. And my deficiency is the animated films and series, or the animated series.
Mhm.
But I try to maintain at least a surface level knowledge so I know major characters, and the recognizability that just that silhouette on the horizon, just that
Yep.
instant, anyone who's even done any homework at all was like, Cad Bane, like just boom,
Yeah.
right there. Like, everyone knew, even people with a passing knowledge of big bads.
Yeah. 100%. When this happened, when I see, and like right away, like I knew something, like they started that so great. Like Mando leaves, and then you get like the little disturbance, the chimes, and he knows something's in the air, and then he looks, and the minute you see that silhouette, though, I was like, oh my god, finally! I'm like, please be Cad Bane, like, because this is a character that I absolutely loved since Clone Wars, and then I was so happy when they brought him back, and then there was never like a finale to his story. They were supposed to finalize it, which was what we were talking about, but it never happened. They didn't do that episode of Clone Wars, and then when Disney brought it back for that final season, they didn't do any Cad Bane stuff at all. They focused on the Ahsoka side of what was going, what was happening on Ahsoka's side of everything when Anakin was getting tempted to turn. And so we never really had a finish to his story. And then, we go through all of Rebels. Maybe he'll show up there. Doesn't show up there. Finally, we get him again in Bad Batch, which was phenomenal, which was all the great stuff with him and Fennec really going back and forth. And so it was like, oh, are we going to get more of them? And then to see him show up in live action was, honestly, it was just an amazing. For me as a fan, I geeked out for sure. But it was so great, and they did it so well to bring him back in the right way for the show. It
Now,
was great.
Chris, you've seen the animatic that was not released.
Yes.
Lucas, have you seen that? The final duel between Boba Fett and Cad? Well, not the final, but the previous
Yeah.
duel, the animatic that they've
The head shooting
floated
thing?
around.
Yeah, it was on YouTube for the longest time.
I have not.
Because that's what people were expecting to see that in live action, and
Yeah.
we kind of got it. But what I loved is they did it in a way that with a twist, like
Mhm.
everything in this series.
Mhm.
Boba Fett doesn't shoot him down in cold blood right away. He gets shot first, and it looks like he's on the ropes, and then it's that Tusken Raider training that
Yeah.
saves the day. And
Right.
I
was
love the
hoping
fact
the
that
stick would come into the mix, and it did.
Me
That was
too.
so
I'm
good.
so glad they brought that back, and like it just reminded you once again the blending of the two, the old and the new. Right? He's using his old bounty hunter ways, but meanwhile he's bringing in what he was trained with, this culture that really everybody discounts as like savages, and and they're not, obviously. But I love that he basically defeats him using something that he doesn't even know how to fight against. He doesn't even know how to defend against it.
And
Yeah,
I
that
think
was
if
phenomenal.
if anybody believes that Cad Bane is done, they're
No,
on
that
crack.
that little
That
beeping
little
on
beep.
his chest.
Yep.
That
That is at the very least an emergency come get me, if not a literal defibrillator or some other.
Yeah.
There is something going on there, and that
Yeah.
was deliberate, and he's not gone.
Well, his little side droid, which we didn't say, I forgot his name. The side droid that's like completely loyal to
can't
him and is
remember it,
like
yeah.
in every episode. That's like his
Hmm.
R2D2 essentially, who helps him get out of jams and everything. I gotta imagine that's gotta be that beeping and keeping him alive, defibrillator, and then like the droid signaling the droid to come get him or something. So
That
he's
makes a
not
lot
done.
of sense.
Hey guys, we're at the top of the hour. I need to acknowledge our sponsor, Loot Crate. LootCrate.com. Use our promo code Serial10 and take 10% off. They are a great sponsor. Glad to have them along. Check them out, LootCrate.com. So before we get into the last two episodes, we do have to talk about one of the big controversies of this series. I am talking about the mods.
Dun dun dun.
Who, I got to be honest with you, I loved.
I loved them too. I feel like I'm in a minority of this, but I actually really enjoyed them. I love it. It's like quadrophenia.
Yeah, I totally got what they were going for. What? Yes, it's a used universe, but now we're 5 years after the fall of the Empire. Society's being rebuilt. People are being prosperous, and why can't there be color in the Star Wars universe? They would have been right at home in Coruscant,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
and Lucas, you and I living in Nashville, Tennessee, compared to where Chris is in New York, we're considered rural America. And how often do teenagers and college kids imitate the style and attitudes of the cosmopolitan areas of our country, and they seem to
absolutely.
not
Mhm.
fit in where they're at.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at, I grew up outside of Nashville, and there was always somebody with a shiny, bright, sporty, hot roddy something that was not from the Tennessee pages. And now that I'm up here in Michigan, you see some of that. It's the Midwest. It's not terribly compatible yet. You see some. You see, a Tesla that's perfectly shiny in the salty, snowy week. You're like, well, that doesn't make any sense, but for that person it does. And when I first saw them, it was a little jarring because it was like, oh, where did that come from? But then you think about it, it's a very busy spaceport. There are all kinds of
Yeah.
people in and out.
Well,
Questioning them is like questioning the rickshaw,
Right, very easy to trade out and get the things that you need, and to me too, like, this is like, even this image, this is like punk rock to me, and that's why I
Mhm.
love this because, I was involved, very heavily involved in the punk and hardcore scene here. This was I was in bands, I did this, and so I find this fits right in. Like, what's to be punk and all that is to go against the norm, right? To stand out, to like not care. And this, what's more punk rock than this? And then modify yourself with like Android parts and stuff. I don't know. I dug it, and it also too like it was because I really enjoyed Alita, um, Robert Rodriguez's film Alita,
Battle Angel.
Battle Angel. My wife and I absolutely adored that film.
Yeah.
I really disappointed they're not making another one. I hope they do. But this to me reminded me of like the elite, like Alita. I don't know. I liked it. I know a lot of people, but I don't know. I
Well,
dug it.
it makes perfect sense. You got a universe where no one has to have any consequences for losing a limb because there's always a robotic replacement.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't it be a recreational or augmentation avenue as well? It makes perfect sense that that would be part of the culture. Just because we haven't seen it yet, that's the whole
Well,
point
but we
of
have seen it.
expanding.
We have seen it. Darth
Yeah.
Vader
No, I
is
mean
Luke.
these guys.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
Um,
We
we've
didn't see
only
the
seen
cyberpunks.
military applications, but it makes perfect sense that somebody might decide, you know what, I want, different badass eyeballs. So I'm going to go to the mod shop. And of course it's underground. Of course it's like
Yeah.
dirty, secret, whatever, because they probably can't afford it back on Coruscant in an official, capacity.
Right. An officially sanctioned and licensed establishment.
Right.
and
Exactly.
I love the meta with the mods too. So um they are called the mods because they are modified, but
Yeah.
the whole thing with the Vespa style speeder bikes in the bright colors is a direct reference to the mods,
Hmm.
the countercultural kids in
Right.
London during the 60s that were riding,
Hmm.
bright, shiny Vespas, but into the punk rock
Yep.
scene. And apparently, George Lucas himself was at one time part of the mod scene.
Right.
And
And go ahead, Johnny. I didn't mean
so
to cut you.
I love all of that meta layer.
Right.
Yeah.
And the callbacks to, let's not forget, American Graffiti.
Oh, yeah.
We know
Yes.
George Lucas is a fan of hot rods and the classic car and the muscle cars of the era. He made an entire love letter to that time in American Graffiti. So I think it's also great that this is not only is this, but they're also paying tribute to, like, what the original creator was trying to do with getting those different things in there. So I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. I get it, Tony. I see all the
Yeah,
I
so
see
I'm
the
going to show
comments
those
going.
comments. So Tony says the effects for the mod vehicles did not work. That episode was a little bit clunky. I think it was episode 3 or 4 with the speeder bike chase, and that's because it was they were practical effects. It wasn't CGI.
Yeah, that was
And
another Robert Rodriguez thing too. You could had his fingerprints all over it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, Tony says the mods boo. If you want to introduce younger set on Tatooine, go Young Guns. Okay, but I disagree with you, Tony. I don't think it did not fit. I think it fit perfectly with the greater Star Wars universe. We're seeing those
Mm.
Coruscant wannabes on Tatooine.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Just like here in Nashville, for years we had the New York wannabes. These are the Coruscant wannabes.
And now you don't have to even deal with the wannabes. You have the literal New York buy up all the housing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dave Mattingly didn't even think about the American Graffiti connection. And that was the first thing I thought of.
Me too.
Before I even started researching the mods and the references to 60s London.
Did we catch Dave's Moss Vespa a second ago? Was that did you snag that one? That was cracking me up.
Moss Vespa,
Oh,
that's funny.
I missed that one. That's really good.
And he did
That
say
would
the
make for a good
articulation
shirt.
of Cad Bane's mouth amazes me.
Yeah.
That was good too.
They did
Yeah.
a phenomenal job on the effects on that. I loved it. Great job.
Now, this was a moment that I thought was just phenomenal.
This is what I've always wanted to see.
When he finally gets the gunship back and he is taking it to the Nikto biker gang.
Yep. Love it.
Brutal, vengeful.
It's just cold-blooded revenge.
Simple,
No emotion in
effective.
it at all.
Yep. Very, very good scene.
Yeah.
Is that from that looks like a rendering? Is that
that's concept art.
Yeah, because I love how they do that at the end of all the episodes, and they were
Yeah, I
doing it
do
with
too.
That is
Mandalorian
one
too.
of the
Where
best things about that show. I'm looking so forward to the
Yeah.
art books that are inevitable coming
the
out of these shows.
Macquarie, the Ralph Macquarie influenced style of storyboarding, just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous.
Yeah, I love all of that too, and the Macquarie influence is so
It's
so
great.
evident. All right, we go into episode 5 and 6, which for some people was a very sharp departure, but I think it was important that we reacquaint ourselves with Din Djarin and some of the lore, especially for people who maybe didn't watch The Mandalorian or who had forgotten, because they're really wanting to give him some gravitas coming into the fight. We were talking about, the retro American Graffiti connection. Can we talk about the Naboo speeder or fighter jet?
Yeah, the totally street legal.
Yeah.
so great. Oh,
that thing is phenomenal. The only complaint that I had about it was they kind of blew themselves on their story with the bubble top. Like, that was obviously a Grogu compartment.
Yeah, they
Boba
kind of
one.
that away, but
You kind of knew.
yeah.
But yeah, so I loved these episodes with Din Djarin. Episode 5, building the starfighter, and then we get to episode 6. And for me, Chris, this was the most Star Wars ever made.
I think that's what I said too. I think you and I both left the same comment somewhere without even knowing it. But like, this is the most Star Wars thing Star Wars has done in the last 20 years.
Yes. And the callbacks to Empire Strikes Back.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get this.
Hmm.
You look, I get chills just looking at this still frame.
Yeah.
The new and,
And
improved deep fake.
the improvement that they made on the CGI, the deep fake technology, because they hired the guy that
Yes.
like created it.
Yeah, they hired the guy that basically did the video on YouTube that was like, here's their version and here's my version. And they were
Yep.
like, okay, we're just gonna hire you.
Yeah, and it was shocking how good it was.
It was really well done. I mean, really, really. I'm like, I want that guy to go back and fix all the stuff now
Well,
previously.
I think he is.
I mean, especially Tarkin from
Yeah.
Rogue One.
Well, now let's talk about that because at the time, Tarkin was done really well.
I
Right.
agree. I 100% agree, but it just goes to show how great, how much
Yeah.
the technology's improved since then. So I just feel like, it's
Made
just
some
even
strides.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's time to go back and tweak it in a
Right, and-
Lucasian style.
right, and give him the respect that he deserves.
And for
Peter
that
Cushing
matter, tweaking Leia,
and Leia at the
and
end.
in that and in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah.
Now,
Now,
the episode is though a little tragic in a way because he still hasn't figured out all the stuff he figured out in the last three of the last trilogy of the saga. He still believes in his own BS.
And that is revealed in these conversations with him and Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Which again sent me over the moon.
Oh my gosh.
In my head canon, Chris, I believe that during the past 5 years that he has completed his training with Ahsoka.
Yeah, and that she has answered every question he ever had about his father. Like, like, can you imagine the look on his face when he when he now knowing that was his father's Padawan and that she fought side by side with him before he turned. Like, I mean, can you? I just imagine hearing that. Like,
and that line, "You remind me of your father."
I know, so good.
Or you're so much like your father, whatever the line was.
Yeah.
I forgot if I'm doing it justice or not. But
now, during this scene, did anyone else hear this song in their head? Run, 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 jump. I can be your backpack while you run.
A little bit.
For those of you who don't know, right now, no, after this, go look up Seagulls. Stop it now. You will be glad you did.
Yes, you will.
All right, so I'm gonna. This is one of the final scenes where Luke, in a very similar fashion to the way Yoda gave Luke a choice in Empire Strikes Back. Either complete your training or rush off to your friends. Luke is giving Grogu the same choice, and I found that a little bit odd, but at the same time a little bit tragic, as Lucas said. Didn't Luke learn from his own experience that you don't have to choose one or the other, and sometimes the right choice is not the best choice.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little tragic that way that he hasn't let go of that Jedi dogma, which is the thing that I destroyed the Jedi Order, because they started drinking way too much of their own Kool-Aid on that stuff, and ultimately, and look what happened. They let Sidious come in, and Empire rose right under their noses because they were too obsessed with religious dogma instead of what they should have been more had their more attention on. However, I also want to cut Luke a little bit of slack because he doesn't know anything. There's no one really around. I mean, who knows what Ahsoka taught him? I mean, Ahsoka walked away from the Jedi Order because of the nonsense.
Well, we know somewhere along the line, he gets the collection of the Jedi texts.
Right, but I don't know if that's happened yet at this point.
Yeah.
But maybe it has, because he's building the huts like they look like on Octu. So I'm not 100% sure when that happens. I mean, we know he gets the tree, the Jedi, the last tree that was growing in the Jedi Temple, because there's that whole comic where that kind of fills in a little bit. And I know there's stuff that with the video games, which I'm not very familiar with the storylines, but those are considered canon, I guess, as well. But there's not too much yet that fills in Luke's journeys after Jedi, and then we've got this huge chunk of time, and then we know, he does the academy, and Kylo Ren kills everybody, and so there's all this, like, there's a lot of stuff we just don't know yet. I just feel like Luke is, and we see it. He's doubting himself. He's still down. He's like, I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know how to do it. Like, he's still that farm boy
Yeah.
who really, he knows what he knows, but it's not a lot. It's not a lot.
I'm not sure if, well, first of all, when the Yoda lightsaber was brought into the scene, I was giddy. There are a lot of giddy moments.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we know really how that conversation went down. And I think we're being kept in the dark to give them the license to play with that in the future.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a whatever the equivalent of a teenaged Grogu is, all of a sudden bust out with a little bit of both skills.
So Dave Mattingly has a couple of great comments here. He says, Luke may have seen Sophie's Jedi choice as an important part of training. What is most important to you, career or family?
Okay. Wow. Interesting observation. I actually like that. It gives a lot of thought and credence, I think, to that decision, and very well may have been Luke testing him in that way as part of training. I mean, because he had the choice put to him, and you got to say Luke did learn something from that experience of, having been told this, he went and he did it. And actually Luke really didn't do anything. Actually, he made that situation worse by him going.
But here's what bothered me about that whole scene of Luke training Grogu, and then this conversation between him and Ahsoka, talking about Grogu has all of these attachments, and he can't really let go of the attachments, and that was the prequel Jedi code.
Exactly.
And
Right.
that was part of their downfall. And Qui-Gon Jinn was pushing against that.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, Luke of all people should have learned the lesson that you don't have to abandon your attachments, because it was the attachment that Vader had to him that was his redemption.
Right.
That saved Vader in the end.
Yeah, and it was almost Luke's attachment finding out that Leia was his sister that almost turned him to the dark side. But the thing is, he overcame it. He got control of his emotions, and he overcame it. And he's.
Yeah.
I feel like they're always going to be grappling. I feel like, listen, this is it, right? As I think if you're one side to the other, you're always going to be drawn to the opposite side, because that's just the natural way of things, right? I feel like that's the universe wanting to balance you out. And that's why when you look at like an Ahsoka Tano, or even like, Rey, like they begin to really, and who knows what Rey's going to do, but you start to feel like they're blending, being able to live in the balance of both sides of the Force and not going one way or the other, but really walking down the middle and having that balance. Because I think that's, listen, what, the Sith are too far one way, and the Jedi obviously are too far one way. So that's just life, there's good and bad, and you got to learn how to balance it out and just make the best decisions.
Well, and we're also seeing a lot, like if you take these stories in their chronological progression, the future is less strict in the lanes.
Mm-hmm.
The future is the blurred lines of Rey's status,
Mm-hmm.
and the Finn obviously kind of sort of something's going on, but dude's going to go his own way. He's not going to go be a
Right.
Jedi necessarily. And I think they're getting, and of course they were very deliberate about like the
Yeah.
kids with the broom in
Right.
the barn. I think this is the first of many little steps along the story that'll play out, of course, as those three other stories come in. to really just start that new era of recognition that there's a
Right.
crossover to it all.
I mean, Leia didn't become a Jedi,
Right.
you know, and she was able to use the Force and lead armies, and and she never, was she tempted? Who probably she? I'm sure she was tempted to go. I mean, I think that's just what happens, and I just think how you deal with it, how you control your emotions, and all
Yeah.
that keeps you from going too far one way or the next. But she operated, as far as we know, perfectly fine, not being a Jedi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Lucas, you're going to appreciate this. I've while you guys were talking about that, I had to ban a user on YouTube. We're getting a Russian bot
I see that.
posting links to Love Face online strips without clothing. So
It's the first wave of the cyber attack on
Right.
Ukraine.
Right. Or it's code. So I don't
the kid with the broom was trying out for the Quidditch team. Or maybe he had just seen Breakin' and wanted to do the turbo dance. That's an old school reference right there.
Yeah, it is. I was like, wow,
You're
man,
welcome.
you're busting that out. Holy smokes, yeah.
All right, so the oh, man, episode 7. It all comes down to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I mean, Boba Fett
Yes.
and Din Djarin side by side, and this is where I really felt like we see Boba Fett emerge as a hero.
Yeah.
He's not just going to war against the Pikes because he's the crime syndicate boss. Now it's about the city. Now it's about the planet. And he's really invested himself into protecting these people. And hijinks ensue.
Yeah.
And did anyone else's mouth drop when we got the scorpion droids, the
Oh my
droidicas?
gosh.
Yeah.
I'd never seen those before. I don't know if they're from somewhere else and I just was ignorant. But
They're amped up versions of the droidicas that were in the prequels.
right,
Yeah,
right. But
yes.
have they appeared before in any media?
No.
Just in books, which I learned this because I did this. I'm like, wait a second, these look like the droidicas, but like I don't remember seeing them. And it turns out they were in some kind of droid battle droid book or something, of Book of Droids.
Okay.
And it was a picture of them, scorpion droid, but we've never seen them in any other media other than that.
I mean, they came around the corner and
Oh,
both
man.
my son and I were like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm like, they're in trouble. They're in big trouble.
Yeah.
I
those
love
things
this
were
line, guys. Dave Mattingly reminds us of it, where Din Djarin and Boba Fett, I think Boba Fett says, "So we both die with honor." And then the Major Domo, if I may offer an alternative.
awesome.
Yeah. And then they both just slowly turned. And I love that whole like, okay, yeah, let's do that. And it's like, of course, it's a decoy. It's to buy time, which was brilliant strategy.
Oh
But
yeah,
that
and I
whole scene was
love in his
fantastic.
arrogance that he just walks out there to read what he's been given,
Right.
totally unwashed, and you get to see him realize that he has stepped right into the Bantha Poodoo.
Yeah.
You
It
see
was
it on
such
his
a good
face. He's reading. He's oh.
such a good Godfather callback too, where and from Godfather 2, where
Yeah.
he's just like, you tell them I give them nothing. They get nothing.
And
Yeah.
and so did anyone else? Okay, so the battle's going on. The mods are fighting. Chrysanthemum's fighting. He's getting blasted, but he's fighting off the Trandoshans. We realize it's a trap, and all of a sudden, Boba Fett flies off, and we know he's going for reinforcements. But I thought maybe he's got some bounty hunter buddies that he's called in, because I had completely even forgot that we were anticipating this.
Right.
Yeah.
I forgot about the Rancor. I was expecting, any number of things. I mean, throughout this whole series, I kept expecting Bo-Katan and her people at any
Yes.
moment. So this was very much a semi-surprise.
Yep. I agree. I'd forgotten about the Rancor. In fact, I actually said that to my wife when the Rancor came out. I looked at it, I go, I completely forgot about the Rancor.
And let me just tell you, I love big stompy monsters. Love kaiju. And the way because this is the first time outside of an animated series and outside of Return of the Jedi that we've seen the Rancor move.
Mhm.
And I loved how he moved like King Kong.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he definitely got his
Just-
Kong on. He climbed the
Yeah.
highest tower, and yeah.
Yeah. I loved everything about that. It was like wrapping yourself up in your favorite old blanket.
Yes, I agree. And I also would have loved too if we had found out. This is just all the Star Wars. Like, I know not everything in Star Wars has to be connected, but sometimes when they do, it's cool. And there is an episode in Bad Batch where they have a baby Rancor and it's called Moochie, and Moochie's going to Jabba's palace. And so it would have been nice to see that. It would have been
Well,
it
I
would have been a
think
funny
Moochie-
callback. That would be Moochie.
Well, no, I think Moochie is the one that Luke
You think
killed.
Moochie's the one that bit it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
makes
sense.
it even more heartbreaking.
I like that the Rancor showed up and added a third tough thing to the battle, because until then, the two toughest things in the battle were the Scorpion droids and that wall everyone hid behind for an inexplicably long period of time.
I said that too.
Whatever that was made of, that and Beskar are the two most indestructible substances that they have available. Because they kept cutting back to the wall, and I turned to my son. I was like, "How tough is this wall? Like, I want to know where that wall is in the Star Wars video game, so I can hide behind it."
Yeah, you're not kidding. And I love how badass Cad Bane is. He just like literally walks up to it and it's like flamethrower, like not even like phased by that. He's just like, yeah, run away, Rancor, flamethrower. Like,
Dave brings up a good point, and this occurred to me too, that maybe he was flying off to bring in other Tusken tribes.
That's a good point.
Yeah. That occurred to me too.
I thought maybe the female Tusken Raider, because I don't think we saw the female Tusken Raider's body amongst all the dead.
So you think the same thing I do?
And I thought maybe that female Tusken Raider was going to come back with another tribe, or just she was going to join the fight. And then he was gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, you're still alive," like have a little reunion moment. But I got a feeling they're saving that. That's gonna be something else.
What I called the Tusken champion.
Yeah, the one that taught him how to fight, and well, because they were trying to say, I mean, they were trying to show differentiation between with headdress and things like that, and I've heard in other places that they identified that Tusken Raider as female, because the females were also, male. They were all warriors. Everybody fought. It was everybody trained and everybody was treated as equals. And so that was the one. And obviously, she was the champion of the tribe. I mean, by far. And she taught him how to fight, and then he taught her how to ride the speeder bikes. And I feel like they really built that relationship up. And I feel, and then when we were showing, I have to go back and watch, but when he was looking at the dead, we only saw the chief or the leader of the head of the tribe.
Yeah. There was one specific piece of that clear recognition there, but I don't know that. Yeah, that's a good point.
The shaman, the chieftain, and then we see the kids,
right? The kids.
Gaffy Stick.
Yeah.
But we didn't see her as among the dead, and that is an unresolved storyline that I would love to see them really.
Oh, it'd be so great.
Take on. But can we just talk about the real hero of the day in more ways than one?
Yes.
Little Grogu tears the droidekas apart. Kid was badass, but then he puts the Rancor to sleep. And how perfect was it that he just curls up beside it and goes to sleep himself?
So great.
I like the implication that he is possibly unreasonably gifted with the Force. It's implied by all these feats that he pulls off that he's already at this level of raw capability, and that might be part of where they go with things, is that by not being trained, what pitfalls and advantages come to him because of that. Sooner or later, he's going to have to like inadvertently kill a whole school bus full of little alien children or something. Something's going to happen.
He
where
reminds
he
me of
realizes.
he reminds me a little bit of Ezra Bridger,
Yes.
from Rebels, because Ezra also had this power of being able to commune with animals, creatures, and do things like this. And he really, his only trainer was Kanan, who, spoiler alert, doesn't
A little bit with Ahsoka.
yes, you're right. A little bit with Ahsoka. He's got some, but not like super formal. And now who knows what we're gonna see if we reconnect with him, because years has gone by, and last time we saw him, he was going off with space whales with Thrawn. So who knows what's happened? But he seemed to have some sort of like real gift for that. I feel like Grogu's probably more powerful than he is. But there's definitely some parallels there.
Well, and you remember in this scene that we talked about Luke training Grogu. He tells Ahsoka, "It seems like I'm not really training him. I'm helping him remember what he's already learned."
Key line. You're right. Yeah.
And that whole flashback to Order 66. Golly, I was waiting to see who scooped him up. That was,
that's the tantalizing mystery that we have to live with.
Barriss Offee.
Yeah, I think it's Barriss Offee.
Oh, can we also appreciate the meta of the reception he gets when he comes out of the X-Wing and she says, "That's a terrible name. I'm not going to call you that."
That's so great.
I thought that was a really great way to come full circle, because I was already annoyed by people that didn't just adopt the child once it was pretty clear.
It's
like
Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Yeah, that drives me
so
nuts.
The general phrase kind of annoys me. It annoys me more when real geeks that I know to know better say it than like just random people at work, right? But
yeah,
it's so fun for them to make fun of it, but in a friendly way. So it's almost like they're saying, "Yeah, we've heard you. We don't care, but you do you."
Yeah. You do you. You call him what you want, but his name is Grogu.
Yeah, I don't think anyone hates the name Grogu necessarily, but we were all like, even I was like, "Wait, really? Grogu?"
It was a little like, I was actually really hoping, and I know that this is just me being like a weird specific nerd, but I was hoping we were going to find out that their culture only had 4-letter names, and that I spent more mental energy when they said Grogu, spelling it, going, "Oh man."
Yeah, because Yaddle, I guess, is.
Well, yeah, I guess Yaddle is 5 or 6. Yeah.
Yaddle. Yeah.
What do you guys think about the theory that Yaddle left the Jedi Order because she was Grogu's mother?
It's still floating around.
I think it's very plausible. I mean, why not? Which would then be Yoda's attachment.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's still a lot of mystery about that race or culture or whatever. We really don't know. Are there others, and what's their deal?
And George Lucas has been on record saying he's purposely made it. He made it that way, that he wanted it to remain a mystery. I mean, whether or not it stays like that because he doesn't own it anymore, but while it was under his regime, he had said, I never want to say where they came from or who, or seeing any of any of that. So
that's funny, because I read an article today with Dave Filoni talking about how he and Favreau both have consulted with George Lucas, and they've taken great care to honor George Lucas's original concepts and to honor his kind of desires as much as possible. And because that was one thing that he was really concerned about, was that they would just make Grogu this all-powerful Mary Sue without any training, and that Grogu needed to at least go through that that path, and now we've seen it that he's actually gone through it twice.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting things to be unlocked when we learn, you know, what he really knows and what he's really already learned.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that falls. That could be that could end up in the Obi-Wan show.
Well, at this point, he's 50 years old. So, by the time we catch up with him, he's already 50. And I love how Luke acknowledges that. He's just like, for you, it's a very short amount of time, but for other
Right.
people, it's a lifetime. Like because he ages so slowly. And I like that they kind of Luke makes that point to him. So he's already seen 50 years worth of who knows what. Obviously, he was in a Jedi temple. Obviously, he was being trained. A lot of mystery how he got out, how he wound up with I forgot the guys that Mando gets him from in episode 1. I forgot the name of those group, but that gang basically.
In my fantasy script of the reveal of that flashback, a few moments after what we've been given, I would be entirely okay with Disney won't be, but I'm okay with a few moments after what we've seen that he saw. There's a massive rumble of force power, and this whole hallway of stormtroopers just into pulp. Just
There could be that too.
poof. He just splattered the whole building with him, and then
And it was so traumatic to him that
Yeah.
he himself erased his memory.
Right. And
Very
then
well.
someone comes in like, "Oh boy, let's get you out of here."
Yeah.
And I would love that, but I don't think Disney will go there. But like if you're watching Peacemaker, the first episode when he takes out the one chick that's jumping toward him and just
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it very well could be that, he out of self-preservation because they were going to kill him. That was their order, kill the Jedi.
They could do it with crushing the armor. That would be a reasonable
or ripping off the arms.
Kind of.
Yeah, or just like force chokes all of them.
Yeah, I mean, we thought with the new Disney Plus era that we wouldn't see any more limbs being chopped off, but Chrysanthemum ripped the arms off the Trandoshan.
And we all spent a good 45 seconds rooting for it. No one should lie.
No, of course.
Everybody
it's
was like,
coming.
Do it.
Yep.
Do it.
Here it comes.
Don't listen to her. Do it.
So good. I love that. I love that.
So Grogu is Groot. And Dave also says that wall was made of Beskar bricks.
Apparently.
May have been. Or like what is it? Like rebar inside of it.
Yeah, it's Beskar rebar. They didn't realize what they had ordered. That one little wall.
And his favorite line of episode 7, "You're scaring it. Stop shooting the Rancor."
True. The Rancor was scared. He was scared.
Right.
He was terrified, and he needed to be calmed down. He was all in a state. So it took Grogu to like take it easy. You're okay.
Yeah. Yep. So that was another part of that mashup for me. You had space cowboys, samurai, and kaiju.
Yeah.
All in one episode. Loved it.
Yeah.
He pulled the mantis. He was asleep.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I think it was a very, very well done. The only thing that I would say I was kind of counting on because of the art that we saw, I was so ready for an after credits early preview of Obi-Wan.
Yeah, me too.
The only thing that I was disappointed about with the finale was that I was just like, okay, surely, because I was on the road. I was out of town, so I couldn't watch the Boba Fett finale until I got back because I wanted to watch it with the kid. We've been watching them together. So I had seen occasionally come across my social media, even on LinkedIn, because I follow Lucasfilm as a company, the Obi-Wan art, and I would see it come by, and I'd be like, nope, and close it or swipe away. And I was just absolutely sure that meant that there must be a trailer attached, and then there was no Super Bowl trailer. So now I'm over here like, give me a trailer.
Yeah, I was hoping we would get one during the Super Bowl. That was everybody's inclination. Oh, we're gonna get one during the Super Bowl. It makes the most sense. And then
the closest we came was an Expedia.com ad.
Yeah.
With Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Which is smart because he's going to be relevant now again. And there he is already a recognizable talent. I could go on for 20 minutes about how that was textbook the best ad, but everybody's obsessed with that stupid bouncing QR code instead.
Oh
Right.
God, that anyway. Okay, we're not going to talk about. We're going to let you rant in a minute, Lucas. But final scene of the show was the mod doc
Yep.
and Cobb Vanth in the back to tank.
Yep.
RoboCop.
Yep.
I like that. That's a good point.
So Mandalorian season 3, what's in store for Cobb Vanth? I'm kind of excited about that because I like his character a lot.
I like him
settling
a
the
lot too.
score with Cad Bane. That's got to be part of that.
Yeah, I'm sure because obviously Cad Bane's definitely coming back. He's too good. He's too popular, and I mean it was a great shootout with them, but they're not done with him yet. Especially, the live action version was so good. So he's definitely coming back at least for one more round, and I think it's to like definitely have another showdown with RoboCop.
So I got to ask this one question. Was anyone else a little bit sad, a little bit heartbroken to see the Gamorrean guards
Yes.
bite the dust?
Oh yeah, and it was
I
kind
did.
of like, I mean, I don't think that it was uncharacteristic. There's some people have criticized that they went out too easy based on their level of skill. I don't know that that's accurate because they were overwhelmed and they were being strategically squeezed. They weren't actually beaten. They were just put into an unstable location, which is the only way that crowd would have had to beat them. So I think it was legit. But yeah, it does suck that they met that end. Or, maybe they didn't meet that end. Maybe they get up out of somebody's living room or kitchen table that they fell into and just shake it off. Who knows? It could be pretty tough.
Oh, that's a good point.
Maybe they bounce. The green
Maybe.
pigs in the phone video games bounce. Why can't these?
True.
Part man, part machine, all Marshall.
There is a hilarious fan trailer to be made based on all these comments. The RoboCop thing.
I think so.
Have you guys seen the 1980s sitcom style or A-Team style trailer for Book of Boba Fett?
Yeah.
I actually have not. I have not. I will have to watch that. Okay.
I am going to send you the link because it is epic. It is epic.
Miss that. Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, they set it up like it's the A-Team. It's fantastic.
That's great.
So
that's awesome.
Lucas, I got to get your opinion on one thing before we call it a night. So, because we could talk about this for the next 4 hours.
We didn't even talk about the train heist.
Oh gosh, what a great scene that was. The pikes and all of that. Yeah, there's so much that we didn't even get to. But this scene with Boba Fett riding the Rancor, if ever this screamed Hasbro Black Series figure set,
yes,
this is it. This and Din Djarin's new Starfighter.
Oh yeah.
We got to get those. At least I would like them in a Black Series size scale, but even if it's just the vintage series, okay, I'll live with that. But we're not going to get this from Hasbro because of the debacle with HasLab and the crowdfunding around the Rancor last year. A lot of people ponied up money. They backed it and they didn't get enough. It's not going to happen. And now my sources inside Hasbro say they're not going to touch a Rancor again.
So, first of all, I think I'm on the fence about this concept, this crowdfunding concept. And I know Johnny and I, we've talked about that a little, and obviously we could have a whole hour of that ethical discussion. And I think that's probably a panel that we should start offering to cons. But if you accept it as what it is, I'm just astonished because I went to look it up once like before the show, you mentioned like, what? Really? I thought the thing was out. I was ready to see the Boba Fett saddle add-on kit go on sale soon because I thought, that this thing had happened. It was 8,533 out of 9,000 backers. And that's so short to stop. That's, that's not a fail. That's just extend the deadline 3 more months.
Yeah, just do better outreach and communication.
Well, but can we talk about multi-million-dollar corporations
Right, you
resorting to
can't go
crowdfunding?
yeah, or that you can't get to the like, hey, you know what? We backed more than almost 90% of it.
Right.
We'll take care of it. Like, get it
Well, and
out there.
I thought that part of the scheme was that as they cross milestones, they add bonuses of some kind, but maybe it's after they hit it, then they add bonuses, whatever. It strikes me as all the esoteric stuff that they've done for Ghostbusters that they've gotten funded. Surely they could have done this if they had done it right. I do think, Johnny, you've got a good question there as to, okay, these enormous companies, why do they need to do this? I think there are a few angles there, but the big thing that
It's
I
a
don't
marketing
understand,
angle.
It's PR. It's PR and
yeah,
marketing.
I don't understand though. They come to it partially baked already. Like when they show it off, they've already done R&D.
Mhm.
The concept would normally be that you're trying to cover some R&D that you can't make an excuse for otherwise.
Right.
But they've already done that by the time they come.
Well,
to
and what really cheeses me off, because I found this out with the release of the vintage series Razor Crest, which, by the way, is gorgeous. It's an amazing
Yeah, it
set,
is.
and it's the vintage scale, the 3 3/4 scale, and it they did an unboxing this week on the HasLab channel, but only people who backed it will have the opportunity to get it. It will never go to retail, which I didn't even know that they were doing it until
Neither
this
did
week.
I.
I didn't even know.
That is the part that they've broken. That's what makes the salt in the wound. Like, it's one thing to do it being a big giant rich company and still doing it. That is an ethical discussion that we should probably entertain. But then to break the model of the GoFundMe and all that, because how many times have we seen a new game come along? And the whole idea is to get it into production. And if you want to wait, you can wait and just buy it later. And these products don't follow that. It's like they've taken all the risk away from doing any of the things that they're doing. Now, they're making beautiful stuff. I mean, this Galactus, the freaking Sky Striker, it's
Oh, the Galactus
awesome.
is awesome.
But
But hey, they got plenty of money to put out another Lando Calrissian figure.
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I don't agree with the not being able to once it's funded, not being able to buy it outright. I do think that that's unfortunate. They're also leaving a lot of money on the table, because if you look at the one that I should have gotten in on, Unicron, as the biggest Transformers fan in any given room, I'd love to be able to come back and buy that, but I'm not going to hit the secondary market at 1 or 2K to pick one up.
No.
I just had to resign myself that, the Armada one that I've got, it's pretty sweet. I'll just let that be my Unicron. But I think that this should be a set. It should at least be a small scale set, something.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if it comes down to the point of like, listen, just take pre-orders on it, early bird this thing, like they did back in the day before the figures were even ever launched in the first place. Like, give me the early bird set. I'll plunk the money down. Give me the cardboard cutout as a placeholder, and I'll wait.
I wouldn't count them out yet. There is a lot of power. I think they'll do whatever Disney tells them to do. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody from Disney came along and said, listen, this product needs to be out there. We want more hype around this show. And if you want, they can just pick somebody, Luke or somebody. If you want that next one, you're going to do a Rancor, or we're going to quit talking to you.
Well, unfortunately, they just re-signed their 10-year agreement with Hasbro. So that ain't going to happen. But and that just happened like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I don't know. I'm not happy with Hasbro. But we don't talk about things we don't like. We win the war not by fighting things we hate, but by saving things we love. and I will get the Funko Pop Rancor and Boba Fett set that is coming out. My contacts at Funko have already shared that with me, because there may be some news coming down the line about. Anyway,
All right.
little teaser.
Little inside knowledge.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
So before we leave, guys, any final thoughts?
I mean, I'll just say once again, I did like the series. Like I said at the top, I think there was some weird just stuff with the pacing and the structure of the show, but overall, I did like it. And I am I mean, listen, no one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. So there's always going to be something that you like and you don't like, but I think that's with everything in life. I mean, a band puts out your favorite band puts out a record, and maybe you like 8 out of the 10 songs on that record. Like, that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to not like certain parts of it, but ultimately, guys, we got a freaking Boba Fett show. We saw him officially crawl out of the Sarlacc pit. We saw him kick some ass. We saw him shoot down some gang in Slave One. Saw an awesome train ice scene, and we saw him ride the back of a Rancor and call it like done. I love it. We got so many great things. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy. I would love to see them do more. I hope they do more. I'm pleased.
Yeah, same here. I definitely feel like at this point, if you can't find something in the Star Wars offering collectively that you can enjoy, you're not pleasable. You don't have the ability to enjoy anything. If you can't pick a lane, pick a series, decide that the new trilogy is great, like whatever it is, like people have complained about every one of these things, which says to me that there's something for everyone, that everybody currently has Star Wars that they can love depending on what their sensibilities are. And that's the way it should be. It's just like the other lessons that these other franchises are learning. Not everybody is into Star Trek Discovery, but they swear by Lower Decks. There's a little something for everybody. And I think that we're always better off when we have a lot of diverse choices. And I think it's I tend to, I guess I'm more patient than anybody that bothers to talk on the internet about shows, because I hear all sorts of trash on episode 1, and I'm like, why don't you digest a couple first? And I think I look at the long game, and to me, this is just one installment of a very long game. 5 years from now, we're going to be looking back going, how about that brilliant stuff? When are you going to go buy your box set of the limited edition Disney series with all the limited series that we jumped off on? We're going to find out how they all fit together, and then they're going to all be packaged up in a 8K holographic 3D disc set that ships inside a dented Beskar helmet or something,
Right, and I'll buy it.
Yeah, right.
Take my money, please.
So I think that I tend to look at the long game, and I'm overjoyed with where we're at. I think a lot of people don't know how lucky they are to have all
They
this
really don't.
wonderful media to choose from.
And even Lucas, you're younger than Chris and I, but you lived through the dark times when there was no Star Wars.
I never thought we'd ever, after Jedi, I never thought we'd see another Star Wars thing in my life.
I mean, there was hope with Heir to the Empire, the books,
Right,
which were great. And by the way,
they were great.
I'll just add a little side note. I think that's the ultimate destination that Favreau and Filoni are going to do, a live action adaptation of those books.
And Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah.
What's that?
Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah, that's coming too. That's coming in animation though, I think.
Yeah, which is fine. I'll take it.
Yeah. But anyway, there's so much Star Wars content coming out. And if you had told me as a kid in 1989, when I graduated from high school, that we were going to live in this time when there was so much Star Wars content available and coming, it would have been a dream come true. And it is a dream come true. And we're just getting fed all of this great stuff. And it seems like nobody's happy about it. And
Yes.
everything's awesome and nobody's happy about it. Guys, take the gift that you have been given and enjoy it and love it for what it is, because it's not going to be here forever.
I always play the ultimate nerd franchise trump card on people that want to complain about not liking a certain mythology or a certain story getting changed or retold. I always point out to them that lifelong Transformers fans know what it's like to have your mythology reinvented to varying degrees of success. And you just
Over
have
and
to
over
play the
and
long
over
game.
again.
Yeah, you just have to
Yeah.
play the long game. I mean, there's still great stuff in all the bits and pieces. Even the worst stuff has great stuff in it. And I think we just hear a lot of the smallest numbers of people speaking the loudest sometimes.
They usually are the loudest.
I love this last comment by Tony. Overall, I enjoy the fact that each of these stories brings us together around something we are fond of. It's like the feeling we get when we go to a convention together. Can't wait till the next one.
Amen.
Well said.
Love it. Could have said any better.
And I think that's the best way to end the show, guys. I appreciate you being with me and sharing your thoughts. And golly, we could do so many deep dives on just tiny little segments on this series. But this has been a great conversation. I've not been able to talk about this with anyone until tonight. So
yeah,
you've filled my cup.
Well, this was great. I'm so happy. Thank you for having me on. This was great. Spending some time with you guys talking about my favorite topic in the world, Star Wars. So any chance I can get to talk about Star Wars for hours, I'm in.
Absolutely. Thank you for including me in the lineup, man. This was a lot of fun, and like the comment said, it's great to get together around stuff that we really appreciate as a group.
Absolutely. Well, everybody watching, thank you. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeartRadio, thank you for listening. And I'll just remind you, the banner has been running down below. You can support our programming at buymeacoffee.com/cerealboxpod. And if you have a hard time remembering that, just visit our website at backofthecerealbox.fun, and you will see a link to donate and contribute and become a supporter like Dave Mattingly. He is a super fan, and we couldn't do this show without the support of people like him. And with that, guys, we will say good night. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you to everyone watching. You guys have a great night, and may the Force be with you always.